The Galactic Council's warning. In the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, representatives from countless alien species gathered. The air buzzed with tension, and the heavy, metallic walls of the council chamber seemed to absorb the unease. They all knew what was coming. War. A new empire, the Exaltrians, had been expanding aggressively, conquering planets one after another. Now, they had their eyes on Earth. Councillor Jur, a tall and stern-looking reptilian figure with scales that shimmered like metal, stood in the center of the room. His deep voice echoed as he addressed the council. The humans are unprepared. They fear war. It is in their nature. They are fragile beings, unused to conflict on a galactic scale. Around the room, many nodded in agreement. The humans were relatively new to the galactic stage. They had joined the council only a few decades ago, and many still thought of them as a peaceful, weak species. The other alien representatives murmured among themselves, convinced that Earth would fall easily to the Exaltrian forces. Councillor Teller, a wise, elderly creature with fur covering his small, round body, raised his hand. I agree. Humans do not seek war. They will try to avoid conflict at all costs. But what of their allies? Will they not assist Earth? A representative from the Andorians, a tall, elegant race known for their diplomacy, spoke up. Even if they do, it won't matter. The Exaltrians are too powerful. No fleet in this part of the galaxy can match them. Earth will be taken, whether they resist or not. There was silence for a moment. The council chamber, usually a place for diplomacy and negotiation, felt cold and ominous. The fate of Earth seemed sealed in the minds of most. But in one corner of the room, a lone human representative sat quietly. Ambassador Caroline Mason, the only human in the Galactic Council, listened to the discussions without reacting. She was calm, her face betraying no emotion. She knew what the others thought of her people: weak, fearful, incapable of withstanding a full-scale invasion. But she also knew something they didn't. With a polite smile, Mason finally stood up, drawing the attention of the room. "It's true," she began, her voice measured and steady. "Humans do not seek war. We do not celebrate it. But fear is something else entirely." The council members glanced at each other, confused. Jur narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean, Ambassador? Do you deny that your people are unprepared for what is coming?" Mason looked directly at him. "Preparedness comes in many forms, Counselor. You assume that because we prefer peace, we are afraid of war. But fear does not paralyze us. It makes us adapt, learn, and evolve faster than you might expect." There was a murmur of surprise among the council members. They had never heard a human speak so boldly before. Mason continued, her voice calm but firm. "The Exaltrians believe they can crush us because we are small. But humans have faced impossible odds before. Every time, we've come out stronger. This will be no different." Jur scoffed. "Words will not save you, Ambassador. The Exaltrians will arrive within days. They will give your people a choice: surrender or be destroyed. What will you do then?" Mason didn't flinch. She simply smiled and said, "You'll see." With that, she returned to her seat. The council chamber fell into an uneasy silence once more. The other representatives were left wondering what the humans had planned, if anything at all. Outside the council chamber, Mason walked swiftly down the hall, her face calm, but her mind racing. She tapped her communication device and spoke quietly. "This is Ambassador Mason. Contact Earth's Defense Command. Tell them it's time." On Earth, the human leadership had been monitoring the situation closely. They had heard the Galactic Council's whispers, the doubt and disbelief in humanity's ability to fight back. But they also knew the truth. The preparations had been underway for years, in secret. The Exaltrians would not find Earth as easy a target as they thought. Deep underground, hidden away from the prying eyes of the galaxy, Earth's finest minds have been working tirelessly on new defense technologies, weapons that the rest of the galaxy didn't even know existed. The humans had learned quickly, adapted to the threats around them. They were not going to let their planet fall without a fight. As the alien fleet moved closer, the people of Earth went about their daily lives, unaware of the looming danger. But in the shadows, the Earth Defense Forces stood ready. Their ships were prepared, their soldiers trained. The humans may not have sought war, but they were far from helpless. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake. They had assumed that humanity's desire for peace meant they feared war. What they didn't understand was that humans had faced far worse throughout their history. And when pushed to the brink, humans didn't just survive. They fought back with everything they had. The Exaltrians were coming, and the humans were waiting. The arrival of the enemy fleet. The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions, broken only by the glint of distant stars. Moving through this void, a massive alien fleet advanced toward Earth. The Exaltrian warships were like floating behemoths, sleek and deadly, their black hulls absorbing all light. Led by the feared General Carthan, the fleet cut through space with precision and purpose. Their destination, Earth. General Carthan stood on the bridge of the command ship, his red, scaled hands clasped behind his back. His sharp eyes, with slit pupils like those of a predator, scanned the holographic display in front of him. The Exaltrian Empire had grown used to victory, and Earth was simply the next planet to fall. Carthan believed this invasion would be no different than the others. "How far are we from Earth's outer defenses?" Carthan asked, his voice cold and commanding. 20 minutes until we reach their detection range," replied one of his officers, a tall, thin creature with a flat, featureless face. "No sign of resistance yet, sir." Carthan smirked. "Of course not. These humans think they can hide behind their peace, but they will learn, as all others have, that war does not care for their ideals." Behind him, several officers exchanged amused glances. They had heard the stories about Earth, about how the Galactic Council believed the humans were weak. The Council had even warned the Exaltrians not to provoke humanity, claiming humans were unpredictable. Carthan dismissed those warnings as nonsense. He had seen too many species crushed under the might of the Exaltrian fleet. This would be no different. As they drew closer to Earth, Carthan ordered his communication officer to send a message. "Broadcast to the humans. Let them know who is coming for them." The officer nodded and opened a channel. "Attention, people of Earth." The voice boomed, echoing across the planet's communication networks. "This is General Carthan of the Exaltrian Empire. Surrender now, and your lives will be spared. Resist, and your planet will be reduced to ashes." The message hung in the air like a dark cloud, heard across the world. On Earth, panic spread through some circles. Civilians, unaware of the larger preparations, feared the worst. But in the heart of Earth's military command, there was no fear, only action. The Earth Defense Forces, EDF, had been waiting for this moment. Deep beneath the surface, in a fortified bunker, General Marcus Reed stood at the head of a control room filled with busy officers. Holographic screens flickered with data as the approach of the Exaltrian fleet was carefully monitored. Reed, a man in his mid-50s with sharp eyes and a steel jaw, had seen combat before, but nothing on this scale. "They're close," said one of his officers, looking at the incoming fleet on a screen. Reed nodded. "Good. Let them come a little closer. They're expecting us to panic. Let's disappoint them." Across Earth's military bases, the order went out: prepare for engagement. Fighter pilots scrambled to their ships, ground forces were mobilized, and the EDF's orbital defense platforms activated. But the humans weren't rushing into battle. Instead, they watched and waited, allowing the alien fleet to move deeper into their territory. Back on the Exaltrian command ship, General Carthan was growing impatient. "Still no response from the humans?" he asked, glancing at his officers. "No, sir," the communications officer replied. "It's strange. Usually, by now, we'd have seen a reaction. Panic, at least." Carthan's smirk faded slightly. He didn't like unpredictability. Increase speed. Let's show them we mean business. The fleet accelerated, moving swiftly toward Earth. But as they crossed the planet's outer defenses, something unexpected happened. The darkness of space around them seemed to shimmer, and suddenly, a barrage of energy beams shot from invisible defense platforms scattered throughout the system. Several smaller Exaltrian ships were hit, their shields flickering and collapsing under the precision strikes. "Incoming fire," shouted one of Carthon's officers, panic edging into his voice. Carthon's eyes narrowed. "Where is it coming from?" "We can't see them," the officer replied. "Their defenses are cloaked." The humans had been preparing for this moment for years, and they had developed technology that even the Exaltrians hadn't anticipated. Their stealth systems allowed them to strike without revealing their positions, and their precision made each shot count. Carthon clenched his fists. "So, the humans do have some fight in them after all." His voice was low, almost a growl. "Activate full shields and return fire. Find those platforms and destroy them." The Exaltrian fleet adjusted, but they were already thrown off balance. Several more ships were hit before they could stabilize their formation. Human forces had carefully studied their enemy's tactics, and they knew exactly how to strike where it hurt. In space, the battle had begun in earnest. Human fighter squadrons launched from hidden bases on Earth's moon and various space stations, darting in and out of Exaltrian formations, using their speed and agility to outmaneuver the larger alien ships. The Exaltrians, caught off guard by the sudden resistance, struggled to regain control. Back on Earth, General Reed watched the battle unfold on the screens before him. His officers worked efficiently, coordinating the defense effort. Reed's face was calm. This was exactly what they had prepared for. "They expected us to be afraid," Reed muttered to himself. "They thought we would crumble at the first sign of danger. Let's show them how wrong they were." As the Exaltrian fleet pressed forward, it became clear to them that Earth wasn't the easy target they had assumed. Humanity wasn't running from war. They were ready for it. Humanity strikes back. The Exaltrian fleet, once moving confidently through space, was now in disarray. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Debris scattered across the void as human defenses continued their relentless assault. What had been predicted as a simple invasion was quickly turning into a nightmare for General Carthon. On the Exaltrian command ship, alarms blared and officers scrambled to regain control of the situation. Carthon stood at the center of the chaos, his cold, calculating demeanor beginning to crack. "How are these humans able to hit us so precisely?" Carthon barked, slamming a fist onto the control panel. "We've faced countless enemies, and none have inflicted this much damage so quickly." A junior officer, his face pale and eyes wide, hesitated before responding. "Sir, it's their technology. It's advanced. We didn't expect them to have this level of firepower, let alone the stealth capabilities to remain hidden." Carthon's eyes narrowed as he glared at the display of the battlefield. He had underestimated them. That much was clear, but now his pride and the survival of his fleet were on the line. "We're not retreating," Carthon growled. "Prepare all remaining ships for a full-scale attack. If the humans want a fight, we'll give them one." Back on Earth, in the underground command center, General Marcus Reed stood with his arms folded, watching the Exaltrians' every move. His officers reported with cool precision as human forces continued to take out Exaltrian vessels with surgical accuracy. "They're adapting," one of his officers said, pointing to the latest movements on the holographic map. "They're going to try a direct assault on Earth now. They'll throw everything they've got." Reed nodded. "That's exactly what I expected." His tone was calm, but his eyes were sharp, analyzing every shift in the enemy's formation. "They're desperate. They didn't plan for a real fight. Now they're making mistakes." The Exaltrians, though formidable in raw power, were used to overwhelming their enemies quickly. They were not accustomed to facing an opponent who could hit back just as hard, if not harder. Reed turned to his second-in-command, Colonel Jenna Price, a tactical genius who had been instrumental in developing Earth's defense strategy. "Jenna, it's time. Bring the second phase online." Colonel Price nodded, her face set with determination. "Already on it, sir." Within moments, hidden launch bays across Earth opened, and a new wave of human ships took to the skies. These weren't just ordinary fighters or bombers. These were Earth's secret weapons, small, nimble, and armed with the latest in experimental technology. Each ship had been designed specifically to counter the Xaltrian fleet, equipped with adaptive shields and advanced AI to learn and react to enemy tactics in real time. In space, the Xaltrians watched in confusion as these new ships darted between their formations, taking out key targets with frightening speed. Their larger warships, built for heavy bombardments, struggled to lock on to these elusive fighters. "Sir, they're too fast." One of Carthon's officers shouted over the noise of the alarms. "We can't hit them." Carthon clenched his fists, fury building inside him. "I don't care how fast they are. Focus fire on their command ships. Crush their leadership, and the rest will fall apart." But it was already too late for such tactics. Humanity's forces were working as a single, cohesive unit, coordinating their strikes with precision and efficiency. The Xaltrian fleet, now scattered and panicked, was fighting a losing battle. On Earth, as the battle raged above, Ambassador Caroline Mason sat in a secure conference room, watching a live feed of the events unfolding in space. The Galactic Council had convened an emergency meeting, and she was there to represent humanity once more. Faces of shock and disbelief filled the Council's holographic screens. They had assumed the worst for Earth, yet here were the humans, turning the tide of battle against one of the most feared empires in the galaxy. Councillor Jur, the reptilian representative who had once dismissed humans as too afraid of war, was now staring at the battle feed in silence. He had never seen anything like it. When he finally spoke, his voice was laced with uncertainty. "Ambassador Mason, we had no idea your people were capable of such resistance." Mason, calm and composed, nodded. "We never sought to show off our military might. It's not who we are. But when we're pushed into a corner, we'll defend our home with everything we've got." Another council member, a being with insect-like features, leaned forward, mandibles clicking nervously. "How did you hide this level of technology from the rest of the galaxy?" Mason smiled faintly. "We didn't hide it. You just didn't bother to look. You assumed we were too weak to matter." Back in space, the battle was nearing its climax. The Xaltrian fleet was down to its last few ships, desperately trying to hold the line. General Carthon, realizing that defeat was imminent, slammed his fists onto the command panel. "How is this possible? How could we lose to humans?" Before anyone could answer, the ship's alarms blared once more, this time signaling an incoming attack directly on Carthon's command ship. A human strike team had breached their defenses and was headed straight for the heart of the Xaltrian operation. In a last-ditch effort, Carthon ordered his remaining forces to retreat, but it was too late. Human forces closed in on the command ship, surrounding it on all sides. Back in the Earth Defense Force Command Center, General Reed watched the final moments of the battle with a grim satisfaction. "Target the command ship," he ordered. Seconds later, a series of bright explosions erupted from the Xaltrian flagship, tearing it apart. The battle was over. On Earth, people cheered as news of the victory spread. Against all odds, humanity had not only defended their planet, they had struck back, proving to the galaxy that they were far from weak. As the debris of the Xaltrian fleet drifted silently through space, General Reed turned to Colonel Price with a rare smile. "They came expecting us to be afraid," he said, "but fear didn't stop us. It only made us stronger." The Galactic Council's shock. As the last remnants of the Xaltrian fleet smoldered in space, the shockwaves of humanity's victory echoed far beyond Earth. On the grand stage of the Galactic Council, disbelief rippled through the ranks. Species from all corners of the galaxy once confident in their superiority, now found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about humans. Ambassador Caroline Mason sat calmly in her seat, observing the reactions of the council members. The holographic display in the center of the chamber was still showing the wreckage of the Saltrian fleet, now scattered across the battlefield. Every council member watched in stunned silence, none daring to speak first. Finally, it was Councillor Jur who broke the silence, his voice tinged with disbelief. "This is impossible. How could humans, a species we deemed too primitive, destroy one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy?" Mason turned her gaze toward Jur, her face calm but her eyes unwavering. "You underestimated us. You assumed that because we prefer peace, we fear war. That was your mistake." The council chamber erupted into murmurs and whispers. Many of the councillors had seen humanity as a minor, unimportant species. They were known for their diplomatic nature, for their focus on exploration and science. War, it was believed, was not in their nature. But the Saltrian invasion had revealed a side of humanity that few outside Earth had ever imagined. Ambassador Mason, Councillor Gylor, a tall, insectoid figure with multifaceted eyes, spoke up. "Your people's ability to defend themselves is impressive. But this level of technology and strategy, how long have you been preparing for something like this?" Mason leaned forward, her tone measured and composed. "We didn't prepare for war. We prepared for survival. You've all seen it throughout human history. When faced with extinction, when backed into a corner, we adapt. We innovate. That's what we do. We didn't want this war, but we were ready when it came to us." Councillor Jur, still recovering from the shock of defeat, seemed unwilling to accept what he was hearing. "But your ships, your weapons, none of this was reported by any of our intelligence agencies. How did you hide such capabilities from the galaxy?" Mason smiled faintly. "We didn't hide anything. You just never bothered to look closely enough. We've been advancing in every field: technology, medicine, defense. But while you all focused on your empires, we focused on each other. We built ourselves up quietly, knowing that one day we might need to protect what we hold dear." As the council members exchanged uneasy glances, it became clear that humanity's sudden rise in power was shaking the very foundations of galactic politics. The Galactic Council had always seen itself as the ruling authority, dictating the terms of peace and war. But now, a species they had considered insignificant had proven they could hold their own against one of the galaxy's fiercest military powers. Councillor Vrita, a being with pale skin and glowing eyes, spoke next, her voice more cautious than accusatory. "Ambassador, surely you understand the implications of this victory. The balance of power in the galaxy has shifted. Other species will be wary of humans now, seeing you as a potential threat." Mason nodded. "I understand that. But we don't want to be seen as a threat. We defended ourselves because we had no choice. The Exaltrians attacked us without provocation. All we want is peace, but if we're forced to fight, we'll defend ourselves with everything we have." The council chamber fell silent again. The truth of Mason's words hung heavy in the air. Humans had shown that they were not to be trifled with, but their intentions were clear. They sought peace, not conquest. After what felt like an eternity of silence, Councillor Jur, still visibly shaken by the loss, leaned back in his chair and muttered, "This changes everything." Mason stood, her eyes sweeping over the council members. "Yes, it does. But remember this, humanity never wanted to prove ourselves through war. We would much rather work together to build a future where we don't have to fight. But if war is brought to our doorstep, we will defend our home with everything we have." With that, she turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving the Galactic Council to ponder the reality of humanity's new place in the galaxy. Back on Earth, the victory over the Exaltrians was being celebrated across the planet. People gathered in cities and towns, cheering as they watched the footage of the battle. Humanity had done the impossible. They had defeated an empire that had conquered countless worlds. And in doing so, They had earned the respect and the fear of the galaxy. In the Earth Defense Force's Underground Command Center, General Marcus Reed sat at his desk, watching the celebrations on the screen. His second-in-command, Colonel Jenna Price, entered the room, a hint of a smile on her usually serious face. "People are calling it a miracle," she said, sitting down across from him. Reed nodded, his expression thoughtful. It wasn't a miracle. It was preparation, discipline, and a little bit of luck. But this victory is just the beginning. The galaxy is going to see us differently now. We've sent a message, whether we intended to or not. Price raised an eyebrow. "And what message is that?" Reed's eyes darkened slightly. "That humanity won't back down. Not anymore." Price nodded in agreement. "The Council will have to rethink how they deal with us now. We're not the scared, defenseless species they thought we were." Reed leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "Good. Let them think twice before underestimating us again." As Earth's celebrations continued, and as the Galactic Council grappled with the implications of humanity's victory, one thing became clear: the galaxy would never be the same again. Humans had proven they were not afraid of war. And now, the galaxy had to decide whether to welcome them as equals or fear them as potential challengers. Rise of the human spirit. The Galactic Council's chambers had never been this quiet. Even the most outspoken counselors, usually quick to assert their views, remained silent, still absorbing the shocking reality of humanity's triumph. But the silence was temporary. It wasn't long before discussions, debates, and even fears started swirling through the political heart of the galaxy. Far away from the Council's prying eyes on Earth, life was resuming its rhythm. But something fundamental had changed. For the first time in a long while, humanity felt the shift of its own potential. In the Earth Defense Force headquarters, General Marcus Reed stood in front of a vast holographic map of the galaxy. Dozens of red marks, representing potential threats, dotted the map. Colonel Jenna Price stood beside him, her sharp gaze fixated on the same map. "We're getting intel reports from our scouts," Price said, breaking the silence. "Several alien factions are now re-evaluating their stance on humanity. Some are curious, others not so friendly." Reed nodded slowly. "That was expected. We've upset the balance. The galaxy doesn't know how to deal with us now." Price crossed her arms. "And the Council? They're divided," Reed replied. "Some are pushing for closer ties with Earth. Others, they want to contain us. Make sure we don't grow too powerful." Price let out a dry laugh. "Too late for that. We've already proven what we're capable of." Reed gave a slight smile, but his eyes remained serious. "True, but we need to be cautious. The Outsmaltian defeat has painted a target on our back. Not everyone will celebrate our victory." Back at her home, Ambassador Caroline Mason found herself reflecting on humanity's place in the galaxy. The victory over the Outsmaltians had been a turning point, but it had also raised questions about what kind of future humanity was building for itself. Sitting in her study, she glanced at the datapad in her hand, a message from the Galactic Council waiting to be read. With a sigh, she set it aside. For now, the political machinations could wait. Her mind was on the broader implications of humanity's sudden rise to prominence. Humanity had always been resilient, but their success against the Outsmaltians wasn't just a military victory. It was a statement that humanity was no longer a passive observer in galactic affairs. Just as Mason was lost in thought, her communicator beeped. A familiar voice came through. "Ambassador Mason, you're going to want to see this." Mason quickly tapped the device, and a holographic screen appeared in front of her. It showed a news broadcast, but this wasn't a human network. It was an alien channel from a distant world within the Galactic Alliance. The broadcast was focused on Earth, specifically on the recent celebrations after the Outsmaltian defeat. But what caught Mason's attention was the tone of the broadcast. "They're calling us the Unyielding," Mason said aloud, a mix of surprise and amusement in her voice. The term had been coined by the galactic media, a label to describe the unexpected resilience and strength that humanity had shown. For many species, humans had been a mystery, a peaceful yet unpredictable race. Now they were something else entirely, an unknown force that couldn't be easily categorized. As the broadcast continued, Mason's expression grew serious. She knew that this new reputation came with its own set of challenges. While some would view humanity with newfound respect, others would see them as a threat to the established order. It wouldn't be long before certain factions, both within the Council and beyond, began plotting ways to limit Earth's influence. The next few months would be crucial. Meanwhile, on the streets of Earth, the general public was still celebrating their hard-earned victory. Cities around the globe had been transformed into vibrant gatherings, where people of all ages came together to commemorate their survival and success. For many, this was a time of unity, a time to feel proud of being human. But not everyone saw it that way. In a quiet cafe in New York, a group of young engineers gathered, talking not about the victory, but about what came next. "This isn't the end, you know," said Zoe, a sharp-minded robotics engineer. "We beat the Exaltrians, but that was just one battle. The galaxy is a big place, and not all of them will be as foolish as the Exaltrians were." Her friend, Amir, a scientist specializing in nanotechnology, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, but it's also an opportunity. Now that we've shown what we can do, we might finally get the resources we need for our next project." "True," Zoe said thoughtfully, "but we have to be careful. Too much attention from the wrong people could lead to more trouble than we want." Amir leaned back in his chair, sighing. "Well, trouble or not, we can't stop now. This is the future of humanity we're talking about. We've proven we can fight, but what we need to do is show the galaxy that we can innovate. We can lead." Zoe smiled. "Then we better get back to the lab. We've got work to do." In the days following the Exaltrian defeat, the political and scientific communities of Earth were buzzing with excitement. While the military focused on defense strategies and future threats, the innovators and thinkers of the planet were already planning the next steps. It was clear that humanity's future lay not just in survival, but in progress, in pushing the boundaries of what was possible, not just for themselves, but for the galaxy at large. But as the celebrations continued and plans were made, whispers of a new danger began to spread. In the shadows of the Galactic Council, factions were forming. Not everyone was willing to accept humanity's rise to power so easily. Old alliances were shifting, and new enemies were watching closely, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. For now, Earth stood tall, but a new challenge was already on the horizon. Humanity had shown it wasn't afraid of war, but the galaxy was a dangerous place, and peace, as always, was fragile. A galaxy divided. As the dust of the Exaltrian defeat settled, the Galactic Council found itself at a crossroads. Never before had such a young species disrupted the galactic order in such a dramatic fashion. Debates erupted in council chambers, where representatives from countless worlds gathered to discuss humanity's unexpected rise. Some argued for peace and diplomacy, others for containment and control, while the most paranoid voices called for preemptive action against Earth. Ambassador Caroline Mason stood once again before the council, her posture confident despite the heated atmosphere. The murmur of alien voices filled the vast hall, but she remained calm. She knew this meeting was crucial. Humanity's future in the galaxy could very well depend on the decisions made today. A tall, insectoid alien, Counselor Jorik, stood to speak. His chitinous body gleamed under the chamber's lights as his voice resonated through the hall. "We cannot deny the facts. The humans have proven themselves capable of great destruction. They have already destabilized the fragile peace we maintain. If we allow them to grow unchecked, what guarantee do we have that they won't turn their might on the rest of us?" Mason remained silent, waiting for the right moment. She knew Jorik's words held influence over many, especially those counselors who feared Earth's growing power. But she also knew that fear alone wouldn't sway the majority. A second voice chimed in, this time from the Zernian delegate, Counselor Lara. She was a member of one of the more peaceful species in the galaxy, known for their diplomacy and wisdom. Counselor Jorek, while I understand your concerns, we cannot let fear guide our actions. The humans fought to defend their world, and they succeeded. Should we not commend them for their resilience and strength, rather than condemn them for it? Zorek's mandibles clicked in frustration. Commend them. They are a threat. Their technology, their unpredictability, they are dangerous. We must act now before it is too late. Mason finally took a deep breath and stepped forward. The council chambers quieted as she began to speak. Honorable counselors, I understand the concerns many of you have. Humanity has indeed proven its strength, but our victory was born from necessity, not ambition. We did not seek war, nor did we desire conquest. The Exaltrians forced our hand, and we defended ourselves. It wouldn't be long before certain factions, both within the Council and beyond, began plotting ways to limit Earth's influence. The next few months would be crucial. Meanwhile, on the streets of Earth, the general public was still celebrating their hard-earned victory. Cities around the globe had been transformed into vibrant gatherings, where people of all ages came together to commemorate their survival and success. For many, this was a time of unity, a time to feel proud of being human. But not everyone saw it that way. In a quiet cafe in New York, a group of young engineers gathered, talking not about the victory, but about what came next. "This isn't the end, you know," said Zoe, a sharp-minded robotics engineer. "We beat the Exaltrians, but that was just one battle. The galaxy is a big place, and not all of them will be as foolish as the Exaltrians were." Her friend, Amir, a scientist specializing in nanotechnology, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, but it's also an opportunity. Now that we've shown what we can do, we might finally get the resources we need for our next project." "True," Zoe said thoughtfully, "but we have to be careful. Too much attention from the wrong people could lead to more trouble than we want." Amur leaned back in his chair, sighing. "Well, trouble or not, we can't stop now. This is the future of humanity we're talking about. We've proven we can fight, but what we need to do is show the galaxy that we can innovate. We can lead." Zoe smiled. "Then we better get back to the lab. We've got work to do." In the days following the Exaltrian defeat, the political and scientific communities of Earth were buzzing with excitement. While the military focused on defense strategies and future threats, the innovators and thinkers of the planet were already planning the next steps. It was clear that humanity's future lay not just in survival, but in progress, in pushing the boundaries of what was possible, not just for themselves, but for the galaxy at large. But as the celebrations continued and plans were made, whispers of a new danger began to spread. In the shadows of the Galactic Council, factions were forming. Not everyone was willing to accept humanity's rise to power so easily. Old alliances were shifting, and new enemies were watching closely, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. For now, Earth stood tall, but a new challenge was already on the horizon. Humanity had shown it wasn't afraid of war, but the galaxy was a dangerous place, and peace, as always, was fragile. A galaxy divided. As the dust of the Exaltrian defeat settled, the Galactic Council found itself at a crossroads. Never before had such a young species disrupted the galactic order in such a dramatic fashion. Debates erupted in council chambers, where representatives from countless worlds gathered to discuss humanity's unexpected rise. Some argued for peace and diplomacy, others for containment and control, while the most paranoid voices called for preemptive action against Earth. Ambassador Caroline Mason stood once again before the council, her posture confident despite the heated atmosphere. The murmur of alien voices filled the vast hall, but she remained calm. She knew this meeting was crucial. Humanity's future in the galaxy could very well depend on the decisions made today. A tall, insectoid alien, Counselor Jorek, stood to speak. His chitinous body gleamed under the chamber's lights as his voice resonated through the hall. We cannot deny the facts. The humans have proven themselves capable of great destruction. They have already destabilized the fragile peace we maintain. If we allow them to grow unchecked, what guarantee do we have that they won't turn their might on the rest of us? Mason remained silent, waiting for the right moment. She knew Jorek's words held influence over many, especially those counselors who feared Earth's growing power. But she also knew that fear alone wouldn't sway the majority. A second voice chimed in, this time from the Zernian delegate, Counselor Lara. She was a member of one of the more peaceful species in the galaxy, known for their diplomacy and wisdom. Counselor Jorek, while I understand your concerns, we cannot let fear guide our actions. The humans fought to defend their world, and they succeeded. Should we not commend them for their resilience and strength, rather than condemn them for it? Jorek's mandibles clicked in frustration. Commend them. They are a threat. Their technology, their unpredictability, they are dangerous. We must act now before it is too late. Mason finally took a deep breath and stepped forward. The council chambers quieted as she began to speak. Honorable counselors, I understand the concerns many of you have. Humanity has indeed proven its strength, but our victory was born from necessity, not ambition. We did not seek war, nor did we desire conquest. The Exaltrians forced our hand, and we defended ourselves. The final gambit. The stars shone cold and distant over the Galactic Council's chamber as the final decision loomed. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the galaxy, hung in the balance. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, charged with the weight of the impending vote. For weeks, the Council had debated humanity's place among the stars. And now, the moment had arrived. Would the galaxy embrace Earth as an equal or turn against it in fear? Ambassador Caroline Mason stood in her usual place, though this time, the weight of uncertainty pressed on her more than ever. She knew the outcome could go either way. Despite her best efforts to advocate for peace, there were forces at work behind the scenes, forces that wanted to see humanity isolated or destroyed. She caught a glimpse of Counselor Jorek, his cold insectoid eyes gleaming with anticipation. His plans had been clear from the start. The council chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species, their diverse forms filling the vast space. The murmurs of conversation grew louder as the speaker of the council, a tall, ethereal being known for their neutrality, took their place at the center of the room. Today, the speaker began, their voice echoing through the chamber. We face a decision that will shape the future of the galaxy. The humans of Earth have proven themselves resilient, creative, and determined. But their rise has also brought fear and uncertainty. We must now decide whether we stand with them as allies or take measures to contain the threat they pose. The room fell silent as the speaker's words sank in. All eyes were on Mason as she prepared to deliver her final plea. She stepped forward, her voice steady but impassioned. Honorable counselors, humanity did not ask for this conflict. We did not seek to disrupt the balance of power in the galaxy. But when our survival was at stake, we did what any species would. We fought back. We defended ourselves. She paused, scanning the faces of the counselors. Some looked sympathetic, while others, like Jorek, remained impassive. We are not conquerors. We do not seek to dominate the galaxy. But we also will not stand by while others plot against us in secret. If we are to coexist, it must be built on trust and cooperation. Humanity has much to offer, and we are ready to share our knowledge and our strengths. But we need your support, not your fear. Jorek stood abruptly, his voice sharp and cutting. Trust and cooperation. The humans speak of peace while building weapons of war. They speak of unity while developing technologies that could render entire civilizations defenseless. Do not be fooled by their words, counselors. They are a danger, and they must be contained before it is too late. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber, but Mason did not waver. She knew that fear was Jorek's greatest weapon, but she also knew that hope was hers. Back on Earth, preparations for the worst were already underway. General Marcus Reed stood on the bridge of the Aegis, Earth's newest and most advanced battleship. Its sleek, black hull gleamed against the backdrop of space, a testament to humanity's ingenuity and determination. The ship was equipped with technology far beyond what Earth had possessed just a few years ago, much of it reverse-engineered from the defeated Saltrian fleet. Colonel Jenna Price stood beside him, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. "We've confirmed it, sir. Jorek and his allies have been gathering support from a coalition of species. If the Council votes against us, they're planning to launch a blockade around Earth. Their goal is to isolate us, cut off our trade routes, and cripple us economically." Reed frowned, his mind racing. "And if the blockade doesn't work, they'll escalate. Sabotage, covert attacks, possibly even a direct military confrontation." Reed nodded grimly. "We need to be ready for anything. Get the fleet on high alert, and make sure our allies are prepared. If Jorek thinks he can break us, he's in for a rude awakening." Price saluted and turned to carry out his orders. Reed gazed out at the stars, knowing that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once before, and now they were about to make the same mistake again. Meanwhile, on a distant moon orbiting a gas giant in neutral space, a secret meeting was taking place. Jorek and a group of his most trusted allies had gathered to finalize their plans. The room was dimly lit, with only the faint glow of holoscreens illuminating the faces of the conspirators. "The humans must be stopped," Jorek hissed, his mandibles clicking with barely concealed rage. "They've already proven themselves too powerful. If we allow them to continue unchecked, they will dominate the galaxy." One of his allies, a reptilian counselor from a distant star system, nodded in agreement. "The vote is our last chance to contain them. If it fails, we'll have no choice but to act." Jorek's eyes gleamed. "Then we will act. The blockade will be just the beginning. We will use every tool at our disposal to undermine them. And if they dare to resist, we will bring the full might of our combined fleets to bear." The others nodded, their expressions grim. The fate of Earth and the entire galaxy hung in the balance. As the Council prepared to cast their votes, the tension in the chamber was palpable. Mason stood tall, waiting for the outcome, knowing that whatever happened next, humanity would face it with strength and resolve. The Speaker of the Council raised their hand, and the room fell silent. "The vote will now commence." One by one, the councilors cast their votes, their decisions transmitted to the central system for tallying. The process was swift, but for Mason, it felt like an eternity. Finally, the results appeared on the massive holoscreen at the front of the chamber. The council had voted in favor of humanity. Mason breathed a sigh of relief, but she knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was still divided, and Jorek and his allies would not give up so easily. But for now, humanity had a chance to prove that they belonged among the stars. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Celebrations erupted in cities across the globe, as people rejoiced in the knowledge that they had not only survived, but had secured their place in the galaxy. But in the shadows, the threat still loomed. Jorek's conspiracy was far from over, and the galaxy's fragile peace could be shattered at any moment. As General Reed stood on the bridge of the Aegis, watching the stars, he knew that the war was not over. It had only just begun.